Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you may be listening. Welcome to our debut episode of our brand new podcast, Behind the Screens. I'm Chris Chason, and joined as always is my best friend co-host, Mike Lickoway. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, Chris, and I'm very excited to be joining all of the viewers at home listening in on our debut episode today.
Absolutely. Now, this podcast is basically our way of saying what we love, like movies, television, pop culture, video games, comic books, anything. And we will talk about it, whether like it's something as fun as a video game or something as stupid as a bad movie or anything like that.
Exactly. The purpose of this podcast is for two average college dudes to be talking about what they love about pop culture. It could be video games, comic books, television shows, movies. If it has a good story with incredibly memorable characters, incredible jokes, and really deep social themes, we will be able to talk about it. We'll share our opinions with you guys, and we also hope that you'll take what we have shared with you and go experience these kinds of media for your own viewing pleasure.
Yeah. Now, before we really get the ball rolling, let's take a little bit to introduce ourselves and maybe you get a better idea of what we're like. So me, I'm a pop culture nerd through and through. Like, I love anything when it comes to Disney, so that means Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar. That also goes for like DC, Warner Brothers, cartoons, popular movies, TV, anime, video games, anything. Whether it's it's a pixel or a frame on a screen, I will talk about it.
He's really got a smorgasbord of pop culture love, my friends. Honestly, ever since I was 4 years old, I fell in love with the amazing, colorful characters that adorned my favorite video games, such as Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter. Ever since then, over the past 15, 16, 17, possibly even 18 years, I've basically grown my palette larger and larger, dipping into comic books and movies and all these different kinds of genres that comes with storytelling in general. I hope to make a career someday out of telling stories and sharing experiences with young students one day in a massive classroom. So hopefully this will be some good practice for me when talking about some things that I really love, sharing it with others, and of course hoping that you'll take what we've said to heart, my friends.
Yeah. And again, when we talk about some of this stuff, it's our opinions, so take most of this with a grain of salt.
Exactly. It's only our opinion. It's not the opinion. Your opinion should only matter to you. So take what we have to say, watch these amazing properties, and see what you might be missing.
Yeah. And why not get the ball rolling with a cartoon that I wish we grew up with? Like, we never grew up in the 90s, but this cartoon, among many other things, wish we did. We're going to start off with Big by talking about the iconic Batman the Animated Series.
Developed for television by Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Alan Burnett, with the help of Andrea Romano and incredible voice talent such as Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, Batman the Animated Series has been changing lives and causing a lot of laughs, crying, and memorable moments ever since 1992.
Yep, when you think Batman, this is probably one of the first incarnations that probably comes to mind.
Indeed, yes. So for the next couple weeks, while we interchange and figure out exactly what we'll be doing with this amazing show, whether it be focusing on television, movies, vice versa, we will be splitting up the 4 seasons of Batman the Animated Series for your viewing pleasure, so that we don't entirely overwhelm you with all this information, so that you'll have the time to go watch these stories for yourself each and every week.
Absolutely. Now, we want to start for the first episode of Batman the Animated Series. They started off really well from what hearing from us. We're going to talk about the first episode here, On Leather Wings.
A mysterious bat-like creature terrorizes Gotham City, causing the police to pursue Batman. The Dark Knight must find the real perpetrator to clear his name.
Yeah, so as you can see, it's a real good start to the show because it establishes a lot of lore about the show. It introduces us to the first couple of characters, and it kicks off with probably an obscure Batman villain in Man-Bat.
Indeed, Dr. Kirk Langstrom, a scientist who was losing his hearing and desperately wanted to enhance his senses by crossing his DNA with that of a bat. Very much Silver Age logic, my friends.
Yeah, I mean, the experiment worked, but at what cost?
But at what cost of his humanity as he turns into a massive bat-like creature, starts robbing pharmaceutical companies, causing Batman to have a chase with him throughout the Gotham City skies.
Yeah.
And of course, let me tell you folks, my friends, of course, Chris previously mentioned it established a bunch of lore about Batman, the characters and all the locations, the Batcave and Wayne Enterprises, Batman's alter ego's Bruce Wayne's corporation, as well as his butler, Alfred Pennyworth, Detective Harvey Bullock, Mayor Hamilton Hill, and of course, Commissioner James Gordon.
Absolutely. These characters are they're sort of like they're like the core ensemble of the show, with a few lesser known characters sprinkled here and there as tertiary characters, but one step at a time here.
Exactly. And one thing that I should probably mention, even though it may seem dated by today's standards, the hand-drawn animation of the original Batman the Animated Series was astonishing for the time. With its very detailed character looks, incredibly painted backdrops, and of course the really random moments that really just made your jaw drop. For very instance, Kirk Langstrom transforming into Man-Bat still gives me night terrors, my friends.
Ugh, either that or the jump scare.
No, exactly right. Man-Bat has had a very nice history in recent years. If you guys want something really scary, look up the Man-Bat jump scare on YouTube, my friends.
Oh, that'll get you crap in your pants. But yeah, but I honestly think, again, this is a solid start to the show, but there is one major problem I have with the episode. You could tell it's the pilot because the dialogue is not the voice actors really didn't get in their role until much later on. They're still establishing what they want the characters to be. It's there, but not all the way, if that makes any sense.
Exactly. They haven't really established their mannerisms yet. You could tell that it was in the very early stages, and they would advance and get better as the stories went on.
Absolutely. Now, honestly, you can't go wrong with this episode. If you're going to start watching Batman the Animated Series, you start with this one because, well, one, it's the first episode, and two, it's a way to really hook you in and really want you to watch the rest of the show.
Exactly. It really grips you into the entire world of Batman, just leaving you and possibly your children wanting more.
Absolutely.
So now comes one of my favorite part of the segments, my friends, where we give our critical analysis ranking. Chris will give numbers, I will give letters.
Right. So for me, it's a solid start, and I have to best give this episode an 8.5 out of 10 because it has great visuals. The story is great because it shows the detective side of Batman. It establishes the first couple of characters. It really hooks you in and makes you want to watch more of the show. So an 8.5 is a solid start, in my opinion.
Very much so. I really thought that this episode was great. Well animated, decently acted. I really loved the lengths that they seemed to go to want to make this a lasting series. Not to mention getting freaking blood on a kid show in 1992. You could see the blood, sweat, and tears that the producers and directors and everyone from behind the scenes wanted to make this show as perfect as possible. So, to basically giving this opening story to Batman the Animated Series the best I can, I will give it a letter grading of a solid B.
That works. And also blood. This show's got cojones.
Oh, yes, it does. It takes all of the risk, my friends.
Yeah.
But now let's move on to the second episode.
Yep. If you thought Man-Bat was too scary, how about something more jolly with this iconic clown?
Oh, yes, my friends, because episode 2 is Christmas with the Joker.
Ooh.
After escaping Arkham Asylum on Christmas Eve, the Joker takes over Gotham's airwaves and terrorizes the city. He challenges Batman and Robin to find his hidden TV studio and free his hostages, Commissioner Gordon, Detective Bullock, and reporter Summer Gleason, before the stroke of midnight.
Now, as you heard, it's rough because, first positive of this episode, we first get to see Robin, and he's like the most iconic sidekick out there.
I know, right? Dick Grayson is honestly one of my favorite DC heroes in general. His heart of gold, his incredible athletic ability, his ability to see the best in people, and his amazingly charming humor. I simply can't get enough of him, especially in this series. Lauren Lester plays Dick Grayson nearly perfectly. And he was not the only one, my friends. This is the first episode where we get to see Mark Hamill's performance as the Joker.
Yep, because now when you think the Joker and you read a Batman comic, it's Mark Hamill's voice you hear because he just pulls on it great. Because he said it himself in an interview once. There's something about scary clowns that really gets under the skin. And you see that more as the show goes on. His purpose in Batman's world is just to mess him up big time because, as the Dark Knight put it, he's an agent of chaos and will want to see the world burn.
Exactly, and all of the Joker's crazy shenanigans that he dishes out on this Christmas Eve adventure simply just astonish us from beginning to end, from blowing up a bridge with people on a train heading towards it, or the fact that he has nutcracker robots with machine guns, or the fact that he has people hanging over acid tanks and freaking hand puppets and freaking Harvey Bullock inside a baby uniform, tied up against his will on live TV to a non-existent television audience.
Oh my god.
I know, right? I mean, I keep laughing each and every time I see this. I simply can't get enough of this kind of storytelling.
Yeah, Hans Gruber, I think you've been one-upped, my friend.
No, close. Very, very, very close, my friends. Yeah. Honestly, though, the beginning of this story is almost just as great as all of the things involving the Joker. Robin tries to get Batman to watch It's a Wonderful Life, to finally stop pursuing crime even on this most jolly of holidays, when even people who would normally rob each other are giving each other gifts. That he shows that even heroes can take a break to enjoy the good times.
And then Batman's like, nope, too paranoid.
And he just runs away. It's like, it just establishes Batman's character perfectly in this universe. The guy who is always chasing after criminals, but of course, even after the longest of times, he does sit down to enjoy good moments with his small but functional family.
Absolutely. And also, another major thing I want to give this episode, like, the humor is really good. Like, you could tell the show is starting to enter its writing, because, like, some of the humor really still sticks out, because you cannot get me to not laugh at Batman getting smacked with a pie in the face.
Oh no, that was one of the greatest Batman moments of all time. There's absolutely no debate.
There's nothing wrong with a pie in the face. It's like the ultimate slapstick gag.
Exactly. There's almost nothing you can do to top it. And of course, if you fail it, it shows that you're not that great at comedy.
Yeah, or, you just have a bad throwing arm.
Exactly. So, all in all, a very enjoyable Christmas story to be shown on every single Christmas Eve. So how would you rank this personally, Chris?
Honestly, when it comes to Christmas-related episodes, my main criteria for it is that I wanted to capture the holiday spirit. And this episode does that. But at the same time, some of it hasn't really aged well. Like, some of the humor, again, is good, but it's gotten a bit stale.
Cringy?
Yeah, that too. And I feel like there's some jokes that the adults might not get, as well as the kids, so that might alienate them. But other than that, it's still a solid story, and the Joker as the center of a Christmas-themed episode, it works, because it's him, because he's funny like that. And that's how psychotic the dude is. So at best, I have to give the episode an 8.5 out of 10.
Very good, Chris. Very good. As someone who loves Christmas almost as much as he loves his own birthday, I would honestly watch this episode with my children every single Christmas, as much as I'd show them It's a Wonderful Life, honestly. From the slapstick jokes to the amazing heart-to-heart moments to the heart-pounding action to establishing Batman and the Joker's long-time rivalry in this animated series, I'd have to personally give Episode 2 of Batman the Animated Series, Christmas with the Joker, a letter B ranking.
Absolutely. It's a good start, but let's move into something not so holly jolly and more scare your pants off.
Ooh, very
And no,
good.
we're not talking about Goosebumps.
No, not yet anyway, my friend. We'll be talking about Episode 3 of Batman the Animated Series, Nothing to Fear. Batman encounters a new villain, the Scarecrow, and attempts to foil his scheme to burn down Gotham University, but in the process is exposed to the Scarecrow's fear gas, and is forced to face his own guilt over the death of his parents.
Yeah, so this episode establishes, this is one of the first major episodes of the show to really go into Batman's psychology, his character, why he does this, and there's also, we get to see him feared, he's not just a stoic person, stoic character. He is a human being because he has fears. He's worried that his father's going to come back from the dead and says that he shamed the Wayne family for becoming a bat.
Exactly. After hearing one of his father's old college mates say that his father would be ashamed if he was not gunned down in a dirty, rotten alley about the life that Bruce has taken up, it really shows that he of course not only means his billionaire playboy lifestyle, but also running out in the middle of the night dressed as a bat and beating people up for a living. Now the fact is, it really makes you sit down and look into Bruce as he's having this crisis and wonder, is this actually the gas, or is he really having these kinds of feelings, like the gas is bringing these fears to the surface and he has to actually deal with them. And to be honest, the animation exceptionally shows this, of course, not only in the fiery hallucinations he sees as his father's ghostly vision. But of course, they are all wiped away by Alfred being the best dad figure in DC next to Jonathan Kent, showing that his father would be proud of him no matter what he did, honestly.
Absolutely. And this episode also is a debut of one of Batman's most iconic villains, the Scarecrow. He may look stupid as the Scarecrow. He's no Wizard of Oz Scarecrow. He still might wield a gun, but he has a brain. He has a brain.
He has a brain, but he doesn't seem to use it very often.
No. Scarecrow's smart, but not that smart, if you catch our drift.
Dr. Jonathan Crane is honestly one of my all-time favorite Batman villains. From the moment I saw 2005's Batman Begins, I was in love with this kind of character. Someone who uses a person's fears, something they cannot physically escape against them. It simply is remarkable. What isn't remarkable is the costume that the Scarecrow uses in this, his first appearance, and nowhere else. It's the costume. He looks like an actual Scarecrow. He's not scary. He's just a guy wearing a straw hat and a mask over his face.
Not to mention, it's not Halloween, dude. You look weird.
No, but then again, the awful costume is kind of rectified by him being a real contender for being one of the best bosses ever when he, slaps his henchmen around when they say something stupid because he's smart, they're dumb. This is a very much thing that Warner Brothers has done for so many years that they just become a master at it at this point.
Not to mention, it is a little bit stereotypical.
Very, very stereotypical, but very effective, my friend.
Yeah, so honestly, it's another solid episode, and again, really delves into Batman's character. Mike, how would you rate this?
Honestly, anything that has to do with character, especially with Bruce Wayne, being levels upon levels, more levels than Dante's Inferno even. The fact that we get to explore Bruce Wayne in a way that most stories wouldn't is always a plus for me. So, for giving us the first look into the psyche of Bruce Wayne in Batman the Animated Series, I would have to give this, Episode 3, Nothing to Fear, a letter B ranking.
Yeah, but I honestly think it was a little better than the first two episodes, so my personal opinion, I give it a 9. Because like Mike said, I also like a layered character, because it shows you, it gives a hint at Batman's multidimensionality. He has a personality. He's not just some animated drawing.
No.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Or maybe he is.
We don't know. Yeah. Nothing to Fear is an awesome episode, and honestly, it really shows Batman's character. He's at the center here. Scarecrow's there, sure, but come on. It's really about Batman at the end of the day.
Of course. Batman is the ultimate highlight, and honestly, it's basically most of the reason that kids tune in every single day to have Batman to conquer any challenge and face his wrongs. And That's exactly what he does in the 4th episode of Batman the Animated Series Season 1, The Last Laugh.
The Last Laugh. Oh, boy. So, we went from Halloween to Christmas to possibly Halloween again. How about April Fool's Day?
The Joker covers Gotham City in a cloud of laughing gas and begins plundering the crazed city. But after Alfred is infected with the toxin, Batman is added incentive to stop the Joker and acquire an antidote from him before all of Gotham dies with a smile.
Yeah, so laughing gas. The show, we went to say this earlier, but the show was influenced by Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film and 1992's Batman Returns. And this episode just reminds me a lot of the parade scene where the Joker unleashes a bunch of laughing gas among the crowd and everyone's laughing their butts off.
Exactly. The entire 22-minute story is nothing but the Joker gassing the city, stealing things with the help of a Captain Clown robot of some sort, which is amazingly funny. And the fact that Batman only seems to want to stop it after Alfred becomes infected.
That gives incentive.
Yes, of course. It makes him even more pressured to get the job done. The whole story is Batman constantly going after the Joker with very few breaks for the audience to catch their breath. And while, of course, it's mostly nothing but action, it does have some very quotable and funny lines from Mark Hamill. Including, "You killed Captain Clown." Not funny, Batman.
One of my favorite interactions is if Batman goes, "Clean up your act, Joker," and Joker's like, "So that's a joke, huh?" Well, no, Batman finally told the joke. I'm like, oh jeez, here we go.
I know, exactly right. I mean, honestly, this episode is exactly what I could expect if you expect me. What is one of the best fights between Batman and the Joker? A whole citywide hunt to try to save his father figure from death's hands, dying with a smile. It really is something that I would honestly watch every single April Fool's Day if I could only remember.
Yeah, because it's kind of a joke.
Yeah, so a joke in the best possible way. So basically, as simple of a story as this is, just showing the Joker's need to get Batman's attention no matter what, at the cost of millions of lives, but Batman's still coming out on top with a friggin' smile on his face. Honestly, Chris, honestly, how would you think that you could rate a story as simple but effective as this?
Simple, effective, but could have been a little better. I mean, centering around this, I mean, if Joker did more than just the laughing gas from the barge, then maybe I would have gotten a bit of a pass on it, but it's just, I feel like the plot should have been Joker's plan should have been a little bit more thorough than just laughing gas. I mean, I know it's a spiel, but I just wanted a little more. But I still think this episode is a really solid watch, and again, I have to give it like an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, I could very much definitely understand that. Even though this story is very simple, having a lot of funny exchanges between the Clown Prince of Crime and the Dark Knight, the funny moments and the iconic moments always stick with me every time I rewatch the series and tune into this story. As such, as with all the other episodes we've looked at on this list, I'll have to give episode 4, The Last Laugh, a letter B ranking.
Are you ever going to get an A or a C out of you?
Oh, trust me, I'll have much more varied opinions as we near the end of this long-winded series of ours before we move on just to other amazing superhero or other series, my friends. But tune in, my tremendous scale is very varied, but I have my own process.
That is true. Alright, the next episode should be interesting after April Fool's Day, and it is...
We have the introduction to episode 5 of Season 1 of Batman the Animated Series, Pretty Poison.
Oh, this should be interesting.
When District Attorney Harvey Dent collapses after a meal with his fiancée Pamela Isley and friend Bruce Wayne, doctors discover that he has been poisoned. Batman must find the culprit and the antidote before the DA's time runs out.
Yep, so this episode is, we saw him in the first episode, but now we get to really see him here, District Attorney Harvey Dent, before the...
stuff that would happen later on. We shan't spoil it because he'd be happening at the end of this first episode.
Yeah, but Harvey Dent, we get to see that he's a real friend of Bruce Wayne, and Bruce supports him as the District Attorney of Gotham and is really turning the crime around. But we also get to see fan favorite Batman villain Poison Ivy, and she... Wow.
She is,
she's a looker.
You took the words right out of my mouth, my friend. Pamela Lillian Isley has been around since the very late 60s, first created in 1966. And let me tell you, over the many decades, she's gone through many changes, many different writers, but has still managed to remain topical, all things considered, and no way is that more relevant than in her debut episode of this particular universe.
Yeah, now considering this is Batman's take on an eco-terrorist, I guess it works.
Exactly, I have a very interesting history with looking at Poison Ivy. The fact is, I really adore her as a character, especially in most recent incarnations, but I will always see her as a villainous type. She can be an anti-hero all she wants, she can kick butt with the side of good sometimes, but I grew up with her mainly Uma Thurman's portrayal in Batman and Robin, which of course, my friends, we will get to at some point and have a very, very fun discussion with you on this. But
I'll put up the discretion on Batman and Robin if you want to turn away when we get to it.
No, we cannot deprive the viewers of the amazing potential, my friend.
I'm sorry, I want them to not get their brains mushed.
No, but it's okay. We are honestly getting off track. The thing about it is, Poison Ivy, even though it's practically made pretty aware for the adult audience that she's the villain from the opening showings, it really is what she's capable of at the very end of the story when it's revealed she's the big bad that honestly impressed me. The way that her crazy plants were animated, the way they tried to bite Batman's head off at every opportunity, showed how amazingly talented those overseas artists and writers were, I tell you.
Again, this was a kid's cartoon. Which almost tried to bite Batman's head off.
And then all this fire and spike pits, it really showed this was tense, action-y stuff that honestly kids today really deserve to see more on television.
It's a literal Little Shop of Horrors when you think about it.
Exactly. I actually expected the plants to start singing if this wasn't such a serious universe.
Hey, thank God the big plant didn't start rapping. That would have been worse.
Of course, but the fact is, it really goes to show Batman's and of course, by extension, Bruce Wayne's devotion to his best friend Harvey Dent. They look out for each other through and through, and their relationship would go among many twists and turns as we talk about this series more in the coming weeks.
Absolutely.
But of course, let's talk about Poison Ivy's deal herself. She wants to kill all of the people on the planet because she deems plant life more valuable than human life, and it's basically taking a good idea and going too far with it. Of course, I want to protect the environment. I want to plant trees and grow vegetables, but we can't cause something to go extinct. Numerous things to go extinct just to save one dying thing. There's always another way, but Miss Isley is not having any of it. And it shows when all of her plants are nearly burned down, she becomes this crazed psychopath. Just starts screaming and clawing at Batman, like holding on to one of her plants with dear life as he looks down, pitying her. This poor woman driven mad by a love of something. It's so painful to watch, but so beautiful to see.
Yeah, so honestly, Poison Ivy is one of my favorite Batman villains, but nowadays I just see her as more of an anti-hero. But, I mean, if I still want to see her as a bad guy, of course. But, I mean, her doing some good should be good as well.
Absolutely. So, talking about Poison Ivy's debut episode, as well as a much more focus on Harvey Dent, and of course we hope to see a lot more of both of them in future stories, my friends. How would you take Poison Ivy's debut episode?
Honestly, it's a really interesting way to introduce her, not to mention the fact that one scene at the beginning I was all like,
It'd be like, whoa, those lips, that hair, that waist, yes.
Granted, this was the 90s, so...
and the time of Hello Nurse.
We'll get to Animaniacs soon enough, but
One day, my friend.
But yeah, I have to admit, this was a solid debut for Poison Ivy, and honestly, if you want more girl villains, she's a start-ish.
She's definitely a good start.
So at best, I have to give this episode another solid 8.5. It is good. It falters a bit, mentioning, Harvey's the victim here, but it's still really solid and really shows Bruce is willing to go to any length to rescue his friend.
Honestly, yes. Seeing such a well introductory story to a very much fan-favorite character, showing that she can be just as lethal as any other male villain, as, of course, going show with one of her most iconic lines from this series, like how she questions Batman, will he fight her because she's a woman? And of course he says, woman or not, evil is evil. And I absolutely love that look to him. It shows that he truly is a dark, shining knight. If that, of course, makes any sense. The fight scenes, the action, the tension, and this new villain sure to cause so many more mischief. I have to give this episode a letter B ranking.
So does this mean Batman is a feminist?
No. Well, I really don't know. I'm not a professor on the subject.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
But of course, I have a feeling that I must now break my great streak with Batman the Animated Series Season 1, introducing already, my friends, one of my not-so-favorite stories in Kevin Conroy's roster, Episode 6 of Season 1, The Underdwellers.
Ugh, God.
Batman traces a series of bizarre robberies on the streets of Gotham back to a band of homeless children who have been raised to do the bidding of their master, the Sewer King. Should we even talk anymore? That plot kind of sums up how lackluster this story honestly is.
The Sewer King was originally created for the show, and what were they thinking?
I mean, honestly, this really seems like a bare bones minimum plot, but it does have some merit. I'm not saying it's completely flawed, but I'm just saying it has more lesser moments than it does any impactful things to it.
Yeah, I have to agree there. It's like this episode, it has its moments, like Alfred with the kid in Wayne Manor. That was always the highlight, but the rest is just... It's just a hostage story that really doesn't always go... That doesn't really go anywhere.
No. I mean, you want to see these kids return to a safer place to get out of this abusive household, because we all like to see abusers get just desserts, is like what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the kid doesn't really talk in any honesty. If like he could speak normally, he would have just been able to tell Bruce to go to this place and beat this guy up. It would have been as simple as that. Thankfully, it's not horribly bad, and Batman does get to fight sewer gators, which is honestly pretty amazing to watch.
I mean, Batman alligator wrestling is awesome. So yeah, but
Indeed, but of course, overall, it's a very generic rescue children story. But of course, Batman saving anybody and kicking evil's butt should always be top priority. And this does it very well, even though it can get very melodramatic at times.
Oh yeah,
the Sewer King, of course. I mean, very bare bones, stereotypical villain with an eye patch and a beating stick. It really just goes to show that, wow, they thought the bare minimum of this guy. But of course, he gets his just desserts in the end. I believe so. And Batman saves a bunch of orphan children so that they can go on to live fruitful lives, exactly as him when he lost his parents.
absolutely.
So honestly, how would you personally think, saying all of this, even though we had a not very pleasurable experience watching it, would you give an honest rating, please?
Honestly, this episode is just very forgettable. Like, nothing really happens again with this guy, and it's like an episode you could skip if you wanted to. So at best, I have to give it like a 6.5. Only because the humor was the highlight, and some stuff was good. And Batman wrestling alligators, come on, but yeah, 6.5, that's all I really got. It's just at best a meh.
Honestly, yes. Like, the fact of the matter is, this is the first episode of the series that I honestly felt a drop in quality. One that would somewhat be substantial, but I know that there is always merit in any story, no matter how lacking. So honestly, I'd have to give episode 6 of Batman the Animated Series Season 1, The Underdwellers, a letter C ranking.
Ooh. Jeez.
Indeed so. Now that we're nearing the halfway point of this, our amazing debut episode of Behind the Screens, let us dig into episode 7 of Batman the Animated Series Season 1, POV.
Now this episode is interesting.
Very much so. A botched police operation results in the suspicion of those involved. Officer Wilkes, Officer Renee Montoya, her debut episode actually, and Detective Bullock. Confronted by their superiors, each of them is forced to tell their tale of what happened that night.
Yeah. So again, POV, it stands for point of view. We basically get to see the perspective of these three characters. We see what Wilkes witnesses, we see what Montoya witnesses, and we see what Bullock witnesses, and we try to get each their side of the story in order to find out what exactly went wrong.
Exactly. This whole botched operation really leaves a lot of suspense and mystery in the air. Is one of these guys on the outs with the police? Are they helping them? Are they not loyal to the officers? What's going on? And Commissioner Gordon is being the guardian angel that of course he is, but they're not really making the situation better for themselves because they all think themselves to be innocent. The fact is, of course, Bullock makes himself out to be the grand hero and Batman was helping him stop the crime fighters. Renee Montoya was of course being the very honest cop by the books that she is. She's honestly a inspiration to me when looking for officers of the law in any form of media, animated or otherwise, and Wilkes was simply a throwaway rookie character, just the guy to play the new guy, the audience person stand-in, you could say. But of course, what actually ends up happening is after they're all suspended, because what a surprise, Internal Affairs does not believe any of their stories, and of course they have to solve the case by themselves.
Yep.
Which of course ends up with Renee Montoya and of course the other cops saving Batman after he's captured by the crooks they were trying to stop.
Yeah, Batman need rescuing by 3 suspended police officers. Something about that doesn't feel right.
No, I mean, it feels different, and I do think that's why, in some regards, it does work to some extent. Now, the fact is, it takes the focus away from Batman for one 22-minute story and puts it on these other characters, gives us a reason to care about their situations, their struggles, their resolves, their positive moments. And I really think that in the end, it all works out. May not be the most compelling story ever, but if you like mystery, you'll like this one.
Yeah, and unlike Underdwellers, I was invested in this episode. It had its moments, and even though Batman was not present for most of the episode, it was still a solid way to be like, we get to see more characters. We get to see how they're shaped up, how their personalities shape up, and anything like that.
The voice acting was also on par too with Bullock, Renee, the commissioner. They were all giving their A game no matter what was going on, honestly.
Gave us a little hint at the cop corruption inside Gotham at that point.
Oh, of course, something that would be explained much later down the line, my friends, but you'll simply have to stay tuned to find out more about that. Now that we've given our bare bones explanation of the plot, how would you rank POV?
Honestly, after Underdwellers, anything was better. So, look, again, even though Batman wasn't present and there wasn't a lot of stuff going on, I still like the way this episode turned out. So at best, I have to give it a solid, on the line, an 8 out of 10.
Definitely an improvement over Underdwellers, my friend. The fact is, I've always been a fan of mystery stories, and of course, coming to the resolution that you were innocent all along, and then the fact that Batman has to work with the police instead of against them for once. Instead of having to do everything himself, he has to rely on others, the majority of this story. And the fact is, we really get to see how awesome Bullock, Montoya, and the Commissioner work together, something that would become prevalent as we move forward in Batman the Animated Series.
Absolutely.
So I'd have to give episode 7 of season 1, POV, a C+ letter grade.
Woo! I add a plus there. That's a first.
Of course, that's something that I'm going to be doing. It's either going to be a solid letter grade or a plus letter grade.
No minus?
No, I figure, it's a very skewed scale. Perhaps I will add a minus one day, but for this, our debut episode, testing the waters, I'd like to keep it simple.
That's fair. Okay, the next one better be good.
The next one is episode 8, The Forgotten. While investigating the disappearances of Gotham's homeless in an undercover disguise, Bruce Wayne is kidnapped and imprisoned in a cabin gang mining camp, suffering from temporary amnesia. Alfred must thus track him down, help him escape, and free the rest of the prisoners.
I mean, how should I put this episode? You said the episode's name is The Forgotten?
Yes.
Forgettable!
Ooh, really? Do explain.
Okay, look. The idea with Bruce with temporary amnesia, that's cool! But it just... What?
I mean, honestly, though, I do like these kinds of stories of Batman fighting non-superpowered people, helping the underdog in very average, everyday situations.
It's good, yeah.
But the fact is, this plot is very convoluted, but also scary realistic in some ways. The fact is, someone could honestly snatch up a homeless man off the street, put him in a labor camp. Who would ask about him? Who would wonder if he's living or dead? Absolutely no one. Maybe of course, one person or two, but that's it.
Could have been worse. It could have been a kid.
Very much so. But the fact is, anybody being taken is a serious crime, and the fact that Batman cares about every life really does showcase what a decent and honest human being he is.
Yes.
And the fact that he is stripped of all of his memories, his bare bones, his wits, is all he has left to rely on to fight these guys, to find a way to escape and make sure everybody is saved. It does have its really awesome fight scenes, but of course, a very forgettable boss villain.
Yeah, that's why I say this episode is forgettable.
But of course, one thing that nobody can forget about is Alfred trying to fly the Batwing.
That is always the highlight of the
He's trying to fly it into the desert, and he doesn't know how to. The computer isn't helping him, and he looks like he's about to crash, screaming for his life, and it's hilarious.
Yes.
And of course, honestly, the final line of resolution, once Bruce Wayne's memory is back, after it's shown to the homeless men who he was the whole time, they jokingly say, "Hit me on the head." Why? I want to forget who I am and wake up a millionaire too. So the fact is, it does have its good, funny moments.
Yes.
Even though it's not entirely memorable, it is a good episode to learn for anyone who likes deep, honest storytelling about the real world.
Yes, absolutely.
So honestly, how would you rank the entirety of the Forgotten story? The showing that Bruce Wayne never forgot where he came from, and he never forgets anybody, even the smallest person.
I did say this episode was forgettable, but it's no Underdwellers. At least, unlike Underdwellers, it has a story that it's realistic, so that kind of boosts it up for me. Humor's a lot better, but again, forgettable stuff, and it just knocks it down for me. But it's not meh. At best, I have to give it around maybe 7.5 out of 10.
Honestly, yes. Like, the fact of the matter is, I enjoyed this episode enough. Never really thought it was incredibly amazing, but I did think that it was decent enough to get through. Forgettable villain, funny comedy scenes when they became available, and really good humanizing scenes with Bruce and the other homeless men wanting to get out of there, wanting to get home, and Bruce slowly finding out who he is again, being tortured by the memories of all of his costume criminals, but of course, coming out on top as he always does. So I'll have to give episode 8 of season 1 of Batman the Animated Series, The Forgotten, a C+ letter grading.
Not bad, not bad. Please tell me we're doing something better now.
Oh, we just might be. Episode 9 of season 1 is titled Be a Clown.
Oh, this is a good one.
The second appearance of Mark Hamill's Joker, Mayor Hamilton Hill's miserable son, Jordan, becomes even sadder when his father uses his birthday party as a political gathering rather than a normal celebration, and ends up stowing away in a truck of the party clown hired by his father for the party, whom he doesn't know is actually the Joker in disguise. It is now up to Batman, whom Mayor Hill distrusts completely, to rescue the boy before it is too late.
Before I say anything, I have to ask, who makes a birthday party a political thing?
A very early 90s cartoon politician, of course, because the fact is, everybody knows that this is one of those kind of stories where the father does not understand the son's ambitions. He does not want to grow up to be a senator or a governor or anything like that. He just wants to do magic tricks. And his father thinks, Hamilton Hill thinks, that it is a very much waste of time.
Yeah, and to be fair though, that's very relatable.
It's so relatable.
Come on, viewers. How many times have you been turned down by your parents because you want to do something, but they don't think you'll be able to succeed at that? Huh?
All of them. But of course, my friends, we do a lot of joking around here.
Speaking of joking.
Yes, of course. Joker's performance is just as good, if not better, the second time around, showing his disdain when like the news talks smack about him.
Oh, yeah.
And how he wants to show up by blowing up the birthday party with a dynamite candle after he steals the clown's clothes.
Sounds like something very Looney Tunes-esque, don't you think?
Yeah, and I absolutely adore that no one can tell it's the Joker, even though his face is on the candle. Nobody notices it. And the fact of the matter is, it takes Bruce at least 5 minutes to see through the disguise. It's like, I know that guy from somewhere.
So is everyone, every other citizen besides Batman and Gotham, suffering from brain damage or something?
You know what? This is definitely a comic book universe. I'd expect every single citizen everywhere is stupid, unless proven otherwise.
Yeah.
However, the action that it takes Batman to go and save the kid, showing Mayor Hill that he can indeed be trusted, that he is indeed a force for good, but also the development of the mayor's son, showing that yes, life on the run and at the circus may seem like a bunch of fun and games, but really, all that it will lead you is being kidnapped by a psychopath, being tied to a runaway roller coaster, and being thrown in between the carts, my friends. The action between Batman and the Joker on the runaway amusement park roller coaster where the Joker is hiding out has been homaged, referenced, stilled, and shown in video game form. It's just that great.
The roller coaster scene alone is honestly the best part of the episode because it's action-packed, you're in the chase, and it is just amazing.
Indeed, it really does show that this show was willing to take numerous references to show just how action-packed and thrilling it could be, even if it was all 2D like animated.
Yeah. Although, who in their right mind constructs a double-track roller coaster? That's not possible.
Somewhere I want to go. Send me to Gotham City right now.
Yeah. Then you'll probably get booted up because of health and safety.
Possibly, yes. You know what I'm saying. But honestly, though, I would have to say Be a Clown is a very fun round for Mark Hamill's Joker, for his big second crime caper, showing amazing action scenes, once more amazing humanizing moments with Mayor Hamilton Hill embracing his son at the end, showing that he loves his son more than he loves his career. And that is really hard to see in anywhere else you look, my friend.
Pretty much, yeah. Because the 90s did it best.
The 90s did a lot of things
I'm not saying that in stone, but I'm just giving that idea. But yeah, this episode was really solid. It was a lot, honestly, compared to Christmas with the Joker and The Last Laugh, it was better because it had better writing, a better story, and not to mention the fact very relatable with the whole father-son dynamic. but also very relatable with a clown kidnapping a kid, considering,
Very much so, my friends.
Yeah.
But then again, how would you rank Be a Clown in your personal opinion?
Honestly, Be a Clown is a really fun episode. Again, the action on the roller coaster is the best part, and that's what makes me keep coming back, along with the father-son dichotomy. So at best, I have to go back up and give this episode a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Yes, honestly, Mark Hamill's Joker brings a new life of levity into any story he's in this cinematic. I really wouldn't say animated cinematic scenes, but honestly, it's just so incredible you have to see it for yourself, my friend. So honestly, I would give episode 9 of season 1 of Batman the Animated Series, Be a Clown, a letter B ranking.
Ooh, nice.
Just that great. But of course, my friends, we've of course been building up to this point for nearly the entire debut episode, talking about the show's first 2-part stories. We'll be doing 2-part things differently depending on which series we talk about. We may talk about both parts as one story, both parts as individual stories. For these episodes, however, we'll be talking about each part individually. So, of course, we have to move into episode 10 of season 1 of Batman the Animated Series, Two-Face, Part 1. Mobster Rupert Thorne attempts to use Harvey Dent's secret split personality to blackmail him, but when Dent meets with Thorne at a chemical plant, Big Bad Harv takes over, and the resulting confrontation leads to an explosion that horribly scars half of Dent's face, not to mention his entire body.
Yeah, now Two-Face is another one of my favorite Batman villains because the fact is it's a split personality. On one hand, you have a good district attorney. On the other hand, you got a guy who basically is angry at the world and wants to beat the living crap out of someone.
Exactly. This is actually the moment that they've been building up with Harvey Dent ever since he first debuted in the pilot episode.
Yeah,
the fact is, it shows that he is a very kind and giving person, always willing to work with not only the authorities but Batman as well for the betterment of Gotham. But this episode really delves deep into Harvey's psyche. It shows that there's so much more behind that really oddball-looking face, that little scrunched-up lips and really squinty eyes and
not to mention the fact we also get more into his backstory, like what he was as a kid, and we found out that his father, whenever he beats him, the beatings are always determined by a coin flip, but it turns out the coin flip was probably rigged.
Oh yes, like the fact of the matter is Mr. Harvey Dent did not have a very lovely childhood, to say the least. It like honestly shows the very tragic nature of a lot of Batman's and Rogues Gallery. Yeah. The fact that their lives were so messed up and full of hardship at each and every turn, you can see that they would almost have no chance of a happy ending otherwise.
Yeah, he's pretty much like the Stone Cold Steve. He's pretty much like the Stone Cold Steve Austin district attorney because like that rough childhood made him a good district attorney and respect the law in the courtroom. Then the accident happened, and that's just off the rails.
It basically, the entire lead up to it is Big Bad Harv pushes against the brink of Harvey's mind. It shows building up over this first part of this story about how he's breaking loose and Harvey is having more and more trouble containing him inside his mind. The fact he's scaring his friends and his family away from him, and of course his fiancée is terrified to be near him. She thinks he's some kind of monster brought to life, and he's fighting so hard to regain control. You can see it on his face, and his face, every time it gets animated, his anger, it honestly leaps right off the screen, and you think, oh my god, somebody get this man some help.
Not to mention the cliffhanger at the end of the episode, because again, this was the first two-parter of the show, and it ended with Harvey all scarred looking at his wife, the lightning flashes in the background. She's shocked. The viewers are shocked knowing what the accident did to him, and we're like, oh my god.
She faints, and we're left to wonder, what's next for Mr. Harvey Dent? Well, of course, that'll be finished in the second half of this two-parter, but basically the bare bones of this story is Harvey Dent becoming the villainous Two-Face because of mobster Rupert Thorne's meddling.
Oh yeah. Now this episode was an awesome build-up. This was honestly the first Batman animated series episode I think is just amazing because we learn Harvey's character. It builds up to Big Bad Harv. We see what happens when he becomes Two-Face. We see his personality shaking, almost breaking his mind, going insane.
Very much so, honestly. The fact is, it leaves an excellent first half in the viewers' minds, and a cliffhanger that demands that they tune in next time to find out what happens.
Absolutely.
So personally, how would you rank the first half of the Two-Face two-parter?
Again, really solid. This is like the first Batman animated series episode I have to give a 9 to. This was amazing. This is like a 9.5 out of 10. Not just because of character, but also with the visual animation, the music, like how it stings, and some of the close-ups. It's really good across the board. I have to give it a solid 9 out of 10.
Exactly. This basically, not only this, but the entire two-parter really shows the crew at their absolute best, showing the deep, dark roots of Batman's characters, not afraid to shy away from things that might horrify children for life. Because I can tell you, my friends, I first saw this episode when I was 10. That first sign of Harvey's face, I will honestly never forget. So the fact of the matter is, I have to positively give the first half of the Two-Face two-parter a letter A grading. The first of this multitudinal episode series.
Oh my god. But don't worry, dear true believers. Part 2 gets better.
Part 2 gets basically better. Continuing from the excellent momentum of the first part, let us now dig into episode 11 of Season 1 of Batman the Animated Series, Two-Face Part 2. Harvey Dent, now calling himself Two-Face, resurfaces and starts robbing Rupert Thorne's illegal businesses, preparing for a final confrontation with the crime boss. And Batman must stop his former best friend before he and Thorne kill each other, and possibly many others in the crossfire.
Yeah, now we get to really see what Two-Face is like. He is basically bipolar on steroids. All the decisions are judged via a coin flip. Good heads, it's okay. Bad heads, someone's probably gonna die.
Exactly right. It shows just how different Two-Face is from Harvey. The incredibly growling voice that he constantly speaks out of. Like, I'll tell you from experience, my friends, with my experience with voice acting and voiceover work, replicating a sound like that is not easy. And the fact that he was able to do it this well still astounds me. Like, the fact of the matter is, he is intimidating as all get out. As soon as he steps into a room, as soon as he opens his scarred lips, you can tell that something bad is probably going to happen. How he instills fear in everybody, and how everyone just wants to bring back the Harvey that they know deep inside, that they know he's still there. Bruce, Harvey's fiance, they fight so hard to save him, but in the end, we're not too sure if it'll ever work.
I mean, Bruce literally loses sleep over this.
And of course, it's something that will not only change his life forever, but the course of the series in of itself. It's something that can never be undone. Something that will alter a character we previously knew, that was previously established, and forever alter their destiny.
Yeah, there's always those psychology majors that say that Batman created his villains. It's kind of right with this episode, but at the same time, you know, it's Harvey's real problems that make him who he was.
Exactly. The really deep-seated issues that he had ever since he was a young man brought to the surface, and how Batman all wants to do is help his friend, but Two-Face blames him for not saving him. It's something that will forever eat away at Bruce Wayne's psyche until the day he dies.
Among other things.
About how he failed to save Harvey the same way Peter Parker failed to save Gwen Stacy. And the fact of the matter is, the confrontation at the very end with the split hideout, a very nice side of the room with a very dark and rotting side of the room.
Oh, God, this show predicted Batman Forever.
Oh, yes. Let me tell you one of my favorite moments from that film as well, my friends. We'll talk about those films one of these days.
Yeah.
But of course, Rupert Thorne sticks his knife into it all as he gets Big Bad Harv to fight back, and how they try to save him, but every time they push to help, he pushes back twice as hard with enormous ferocity.
Pretty much.
Proving that to his loving fiancé that the man she once loved may not fully be gone, but he's not fully here anymore either.
Yeah,
and probably
a changed
never will be.
Man, if you will.
A changed man for the very, very worst. A villain that will forever impact Batman's legacy in this show, and one that impacted his legacy overall in his entire Rogues Gallery.
Absolutely.
So basically, honestly, now that this concludes our talking about Two-Face, the two-parter, how would you think the second half takes after the first half?
The second half, I honestly think just as good as the first half, because the first half was the build-up. Part 2 is basically the aftermath. Like, we see what happens after the build-up, how it pays off. And it paid off on a somber note, because not all Batman episodes have to end in a sweet way. This was bittersweet.
Exactly.
Sweet that Harvey's sort of back, but bitter because he's not the same Harvey we fell in love with at first.
Exactly.
So again, like part 1, I have to give Two-Face part 2 a 9 out of 10, and this is honestly one of my favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series.
Mine as well. I have to personally say that this story will always be up there to show new viewers of this series and Batman in general the possibilities that they have for telling deep-rooted and deeply upsetting, but also very entertaining stories.
Absolutely.
So I'd have to give the second part of the Two-Face two-parter, episode 11 of Batman the Animated Series Season 1, an A letter grading. The same as the first part, my friends, to show the highest and the lowest of what this series can accomplish. Now, do not adjust that dial right yet, my friends. We still have 2 more stories to share with you today before we must sign off. Beginning with episode 12 of Season 1, It's Never Too Late.
Ooh.
A mob war between crime bosses Rupert Thorne and Arnold Stromwell is nearing its end, and come to a climax when Stromwell is set up to be killed in an exploding restaurant by Thorne. Batman saves him at the very last moment, and aided by Stromwell's brother, now a priest who lost his leg years ago, an accident for which Stromwell carries a secret blame because he lost his leg saving his life from a runaway train, tries to persuade him to give up his life of crime and help the police bring down Thorne by testifying against him in court.
Now this episode, I don't know what to think. I mean, on one hand, on the positive note, it's grounded in reality because we're not dealing with supervillains, psychopaths. We're dealing with ground level crime bosses. It's basically The Sopranos, if you will.
Yeah, you could basically say a PG version of the Sopranos TV show.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, Stromwell is a very he's a very old crime boss in a world that's moved beyond him. The fact he's trying to hold on to a dying empire with everything he has because he always dreamed of being the big man on top when he was a kid, owning Gotham City and how much of a fun adventure it would be. But as you see him standing on the precipice of this crisis he's having, being ousted and trying to be tracked down by Rupert Thorne to be murdered, it's not as grand as he ever thought possible.
Yeah, and then Rupert Thorne turns out to be the big guy. Figuratively and literally.
My friends.
Rupert Thorne's kind of like Marvel's Kingpin almost, because he looks like him.
Almost exactly right. The fact is, Rupert Thorne's design, a very pudgy crime boss. The fact with his graying hair and pudgy face, round body, and of course played by the Dean from Animal House, if I'm guessing myself correctly, my friends.
You can double check if you want, but yeah.
Of course. The fact of the matter is, it shows that no matter how many wrongdoings you've done in your life, how much you think you cannot be saved, that not even God can save you after you've wronged so many. Batman even said it himself when he saved Stromwell from yet another trap. It's never too late to change.
That is true. And the fact that Stromwell is carrying that burden about his brother losing his leg, it haunts him a little.
Exactly. It really just shows that almost everybody in Gotham is holding some kind of guilt. They've got something to hide. And that's what makes you want to watch these stories more, because you want to see it for the villains, yes, but you want to see it for many of the other dark, twisted tales that Gotham City hides. One of which is, and honestly, one of the best moments that this episode has to offer is when Batman shows him the real damage that Stromwell's drugs are causing the city. People who make and sell drugs usually do not care about the after effects of making the product. They just care about making the money. But when Stromwell finds his own son, a junkie, in a clinic, in a kid's show, the fact of the matter is he's in such denial that my son can't be taking these drugs. My drugs don't hurt people like him, and Batman shows him the real damage of this, showing that, yes, you became the top dog by crushing everybody else.
Yeah, that's sort of one way to dominate.
Exactly, and it really shows the difference between characters like Stromwell and characters like Thorne. Thorne doesn't give a crap about anybody but himself, always wanting to take out anybody to be the big man in of course, the city. But Stromwell, he's cruel, yes, but he has a conscience at the end of the day.
It's dirty, but whatever.
Exactly. Of course, when he surrenders himself to Batman to testify against Thorne, perhaps his soul, in the end, can be saved after all.
Yeah. So honestly, if I had to rate this episode, it's alright, but there's times where it can be a bit forgettable and you forget you're watching a superhero cartoon. It's more like just something you'd see out of, I don't know, some animated show, I don't know. But at best, it still has a strong message, and I have to give it, at least on the line, a solid 8.
Wonderful, yes. Like, the fact of the matter is, I've already mentioned many times before how grounded storytelling is one of my personal favorite forms of it all. Seeing Batman watching from the shadows, trying to aid someone who's clearly done a lot of wrong in his life, try to find a better path to make things right. It really shows how much of a good person he is when he's not being very overly melodramatic. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like, the fact of the matter is, he shows him all the different levels of his actions causing others harm, and in the end, helps him to make the right decision. So honestly, I'd have to give episode 12 of season 1 of Batman the Animated Series, It's Never Too Late, a letter B ranking.
That's solid.
And of course, at long last, my friends, we've come to the final episode, the final story that we will talk about on this, our debut episode of Behind the Screens. I've got Batman in my basement.
Oh no!
Now,
oh boy.
For those of you who are watching who are already very familiar with this television series and Batman in general, having seen this series before, this episode is infamous for being not great right out of the gate.
Plot synopsis first, and then we'll tell you why.
During a fight with Batman over a stolen Fabergé egg, the Penguin, played by the amazing British performer Paul Williams, incapacitates Batman with poison gas. The Dark Knight is rescued by a teenage amateur detective named, get this, Sherman Grant, and his friend Roberta, who hide Batman in Sherman's basement long enough for him to recover before the Penguin finds them. Basically, the entire plot is teenagers take Batman into their basement and nurse him back to health for 20 minutes.
Yeah, what was going on in the writing department with this one?
I honestly don't know. This episode seems so much out of touch with everything else that had been happening with the entire rest of the series. It just boggles my mind the way that this episode comes to be presentating. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I mean, the only real positive here is that we get to see the Penguin for the first time.
I know Penguin makes his first appearance in this, arguably one of the weakest episodes of the entire, not only first season, but of the entire series as a whole. It really is astonishing, my friends. The fact is, Paul Williams does an okay Penguin, honestly. He looks the part with his rotund features, penguin suit, monocle, claws, penguin sharpie nose, very, very much mimicking the amazing performance of Danny DeVito in Batman Returns.
But less nose biting, if you catch my drift.
Less nose biting, which is sadly unfortunate. But then, of course, we have to cut to the meat of the series. Sherman and Roberta having funny shenanigans where they try to drive the Batmobile even though they can't reach the pedals. They have to drag Batman downstairs and lay him on a couch and try to figure out what he's telling them. Even though he's saying exactly what they should know, they still don't get it.
I mean, they're kids, and they're not... Well, to be fair, though, people can be smart at a young age, but... I feel like this episode kind of makes fun of your intelligence almost.
I know. I get that this is a television show for children, and this is definitely something that someone would expect a child to be watching, because the kids could be... in the episode could be the kid viewer putting themselves in their shoes. What happened if you found Batman in the Batmobile and he was unconscious? What would you do? You take him back to your house. That's what you do. But then we have the stereotypical bully characters who beat on the kids and bully them because they're small and they're big, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The mother of Sherman is completely oblivious to everything that's going on in her gosh darn house.
Not to mention the fact that Penguin mostly destroys it near the end.
Exactly. He completely busts it, but she's perfectly fine because Batman saved her house. I mean, of course, you could possibly forgive that if Mr. Bruce Wayne walked into your home, nearly trashed it, but he was there. I'm pretty sure we could forgive that, honestly.
I guess.
But of course, it shows that the Penguin is capable of doing outlandish adventures, but just a small spoiler warning, my friends. In my personal opinion, the Penguin doesn't have very many interesting stories in this animated series.
Yeah,
so.
now that I think about it,
Yeah, so basically, as we go on, we'll be sure to give them all of the positivity we can, but the whole point of this podcast is to be as positive and most upbeat and upfront with you as possible.
And honesty. And honestly, if I had to rate this episode, oh, good lord. I mean, was it Underdwellers bad? Kind of, but it just... I don't know what to think of this episode. Again, it tests with your intelligence. Penguin could have been... The Penguin could not have been the villain for this one. And honestly, if the kids were a little smarter, I probably would have cut it a little more slack. But as is... Best I had to give this episode a 6.5 out of 10.
Gosh darn, my friend. Okay. Honestly, though, the big ending climax with the Penguin coming downstairs and his goons being defeated by a bunch of teenagers, I feel really bad for the Penguin most of the time, and this is another example. When you get beat by 12-year-olds, you suck at villainy. Find a new job.
Unless
quickly.
it's Home Alone.
Unless it's Home Alone, then we can laugh at their expense and keep coming back for more.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'd have to give... well, of course, before I get to my letter grading, the ending was at least somewhat decent. After Batman regains consciousness, he defeats the Penguin, returns the egg, and of course, Sherman gets the respect of not only the bullies, but they decide to help him in his amateur detective work because he has a kit and everything. And the fact it's just so silly, so gold and silver age-ish. So if you happen to find some joy in this very amateur story, good on you. We certainly didn't.
Yeah.
So honestly, I've got Batman in my basement, the 13th episode of Batman the Animated Series Season 1, the lowest grade thus far with a D+.
Ooh,
So honestly, it is worse than the Underdwellers in my humble opinion.
Well, you got the D.
Yes, the D+, my friends, if you catch our drift. But of course, we've now come to the first set of episodes ending.
Yeah, not the best way to end, mind you.
But don't worry, we'll be sure to have a lot more fun Batman the Animated Series episodes to talk to you about in the future, my friends. I'm not sure if that will be the basis of next week's story. We might try something different, but rest assured, you will be seeing more of us talking about the amazing exploits of Kevin Conroy, aka Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, in the very near future.
Absolutely. So this wraps up our debut episode of Behind the Screens. What'd you think of it? If you managed to see us on campus, if you possibly recognize us, recognize our voices, let us know. We're open. Like, if you know us and want to say hi, go right ahead. We're open to fans.
Of course, tell your friends about this podcast. Show your family. If you guys are interested in getting into superheroes or know somebody who is, direct them to us. We'll be happy to share everything we know about these topics with you as to help persuade you towards possibly getting into this as much as we clearly are.
Yeah, but that's it for today. Until then, I'm Chris.
I'm Mike.
And this was Behind the Screens. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.